Okay, a very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tisini Football Finance Summit. We'll be having very important conversations today to do with money, funding, and resources in Kenyan football across all tiers. When we talk about women's football, men's football, the Kenyan Premier League, the national football teams. So a very pertinent conversation needs to be had, and that's exactly what Tisini will be doing today. I am your host, Aida Waringa, and before we get into the discussions, ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask you to stand up for the national anthem. Once again, a huge welcome to the Tisini Football Finance Summit. It is powered by Safaricom, and a big welcome to Park in Radisson here in Westlands. We will take you through a few of the house rules, but allow me to introduce first Mr. Charles Mwangi, who is the security manager here at the Park in Radisson, to just take us through a few of those COVID-19 rules we need to mitigate the effects of this pandemic.
First and foremost, our fire emergency exit points are the ones marked green. If you look at the back of the child, you have those signages. In the event that there's an alarm, an audible alarm will come with evacuate. We have trained fire marshals and first aiders who will direct you to a fire assembly point, which is just as you are coming in at the lobby outside. In addition to that, we have armed police, security from Kileleshwa, 24/7. Our nearest emergency hospital is Mpisha or Aga Khan. But if you have a hospital of your preference, we can also take you there. For COVID-19 restrictions and policies that we have in place, we have ensured that all our staff are COVID tested. We have ensured that we put on our face masks. We have ensured sanitization points as close as possible to any meeting points. We have ensured as much as possible to have social distancing, even as you go out to the food stations. That said, once again, thank you for coming to Park in Radisson. Have a fruitful meeting. Thank you.
A round of applause, please, for Mr. Mwangi, security manager here at Park in Radisson. Allow me to take you through a few more house rules. Of course, you've heard from Mr. Mwangi. Please observe the measures to do with COVID-19. I love the fact that I think almost everyone here is wearing their masks properly. We will also be ventilating the room after about an hour and a half during the tea break, just for proper aeration. So we'll get to that much later on. Follow the conversation as well, ladies and gentlemen, across social media. The hashtag to use is "Where is the money?" Because of course that is exactly what our conversation is based on. Where is the money when we talk about Kenyan football? And of course, if you do need to use the bathroom, as you had Mr. Mwangi say, it is to the outside of this room, to the immediate right once you exit this room. Please keep your phones on silent as well for purposes of this production. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we move on, we are live on Facebook, and I will be shortly introducing Mr. Were Wanjala, who is the co-founder of Tisini. And as he makes his way over to the front of the room, yes, there he is, making his way over to the stage. Of course, Mr. Were Wanjala is a co-founder at Tisini. He is an author as well. So to read some of his pieces and some of his articles, be sure to log on to tisini.co.ke, and to read other amazing articles as well at Tisini, be sure to do that. Well, Mr. Wanjala, I hear you call yourself the lead missionary at Tisini. Maybe you can tell the audience what that is about, and you also have a presentation for us. Welcome.
Okay. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's a great pleasure to have and host you here this morning because I think you are the key stakeholders in growing the game of football. And as a media and technology company, our role is probably to facilitate you guys to hear your voices and to see how we can grow the beautiful game of football here in the country. Because I know so many people look at the downside of it, but having interacted with the sport now for such a long time, I believe there are so many opportunities, and we'll get to hear from the different speakers just what opportunities are there, what challenges are there, and how can we solve and grow the game. So this is our website, tisini.co.ke. Tisini obviously is the 90 minutes of the game. It's Kiswahili, and it means that. And it also portrays how we look at ourselves, because we look at ourselves from a more analytical perspective of the game and growing the game more analytically, growing the game and seeing the... Tisini is a media tech company, and our mission is to look inside the game and beyond. We try to look at the data, the people, and the tactics in the game. We take a more holistic approach on how we look at the game and how we look at the sport. At the center of everything is our culture, but at the topmost is the consumer and also the stakeholders. Because without the consumers, the fans, and the stakeholders wouldn't be where we are. And then our culture is just adaptability, innovation. It's a simple ABC or then RST. If I can just speak about adaptability and innovation. Adaptability and innovation is basically getting feedback from our consumers and getting feedback from our stakeholders, such that now we improve the game and we see how to grow the game. We try to really keep it simple, and our basic principle is look at how do we have content and all the solutions that run on the mobile phone. And the content should be friendly on the mobile phone, and we collect the data and in various games. I'm sure maybe if some of you have attended your games, you've seen us collecting our data. We've been doing it manually, but now we want to see how we can just grow that and collect the data using the mobile phone. And the other thing, we engage our consumers and stakeholders through very funny and interesting, engaging ways. We'll see one of it during the session, which is a very interesting quiz. Our content, what brings us here and where to look at money is one of the key segments of our content is Money Monday. So every Monday we run something about money in football, and I'm sure we'll be looking forward at least to either interact or even interview some of you who are in the room, and then run your pieces, run your stories, because you have very interesting stories about the state of football. One example that I can just give is Ken Ocheng. When we did an interview about Ken Ocheng, he just took us through what it takes to run his club, and he was giving us his annual budget and how he needs to look at running the club, and also in addition to that, the transfer fee. But I'm sure during the session we'll just get to hear more about the transfer fee. So the other thing that we also do look at is nutrition. We have Wellness Wednesdays. This is the latest article that we had. We published it yesterday. It was looking at a very interesting thing about how did poor nutrition cost Gor Mahia the 2012 KPL title. I don't know how many of you remember that day and what happened. It was a last minute day and what happened about that. So to get more information, I think you can just read the article. It was a very nice and interesting, entertaining story. But for the players, how does the nutrition play a big part? We try to look at the statistics in the games. When we collect the statistics, we try to see how can teams improve. This is an example of Chapadimba, where we collected the statistics of Dagoretti Mixed. We looked at their statistics during the semi-finals, finals, and they're very simple statistics, but they do tell a lot in terms of how the game can progress. And also, we've been following Harambee Stars now since last year and collecting their statistics and also finding out how can Harambee Stars perform better, how can they grow their game. The thing about innovation and simple statistics, I don't know how many of you have heard about that club, Midtjylland. They are the Danish champions, and they've been playing against Liverpool, Ajax, and Atalanta in one pool. I know so far they have not won any Champions League game. But the interesting thing about them was that they just used one simple statistic, that was the throw-in. And then they innovated ways around how you can actually just use and retain possession through your throw-ins. And then, in line with our mission, we look inside the game and beyond, and that's the reason why we also tend to look at just carrying out surveys among players and finding out how they can improve. So one survey that we did, one of the concerns for the players is getting proper treatment. It was a very big concern for the players. So in addition to just getting these statistics, we look at, okay, how can we partner with the clubs? How can we partner with health insurance providers such that if a player is injured, they're able now to get proper treatment. So where do we go from here? I believe today's speakers will highlight quite a number of things, but there are a few things I just wanted to highlight. Personally, I believe we can get to the level where clubs can generate income and clubs can play players quite well. So for example, there's a Simba SC recent move where this player from Zambia with 3 C's to his name is being paid about, he was paid about 7.2 million just on sign-on fees. I believe Kenya, we can get there. I think the opportunities and the people that I see here, the brain power that I see here, I think we can get the game to that level. And for me, I'm looking that there's an opportunity for Africa, because one of the biggest trends that's happening right now is you find clubs like City and clubs like Red Bull, they're creating satellite clubs in different areas. But if you look at one thing, why is Africa missing? Why is Africa always missing? Because the City Football Group, can you imagine? It has invested in a club in India, Mumbai, where hardly anyone plays or follows football. The biggest sport is cricket. But for me, I see there's an opportunity for either Kenyan clubs to spread out if they run themselves properly and create satellite clubs around Africa, or they'll be part of a very big group. Either, who knows, a team like Manchester United can set up a satellite club in Kenya. But we need to look at how we can grow the industry and reach to that level. So where the money is, I think one of the key things is just look at, with the money that we have, how can we grow the money that we have? Then we focus on growing even to 10 shillings, even to 100 shillings with the money that we have. So those are among the first steps that we need to look at. And then I think one of the key things is, if you look at this simple equation, 1 to the power of 365 will give you what? 1. But 1 to the power of 1.01 to the power of 365, it gives you 37. That shows just the power of doing something very small and being very consistent in our efforts. So it's very important, if we start the conversations, if we start the discussions, how can we just be very consistent and grow our efforts in improving the state of the game? As I welcome you to the summit and as I welcome the different speakers and to hear from them, I hope we'll be engaging and I hope we'll be looking at solutions and finding ways and areas which we can grow the sport.
All right, a round of applause, please, for Mr. Were Wanjala, co-founder of Tisini. As they say, game ni 90. So thanks a lot for that, Mr. Wanjala. Some interesting points he's brought up in his presentation, and indeed, we will be fielding questions from those of you who are curious and would like some answers or a bit more elaboration on some of these presentations later. Some interesting points Were has brought up. I'll give you a quick illustration. There's an Egyptian club, Pyramids FC. I'm sure majority, if not all of you here, are aware of Pyramids FC. We're talking about a club in the Egyptian Premier League, got into the top flight in 2014. Come 2020, 6 years ago, they were in the final of the CAF Confederation Cup. A lot of you will say, look, it's owned by a billionaire. My point in this is this. It starts with a thought, starts with a dream. And that's exactly what we need to look at. Where is the money in Kenyan football? What makes, the Egyptian Premier League, the Moroccan Premier League, the South African League, that broke the 1 billion rand mark in 2019? What are they doing differently? And what do we need to look at here in Kenya? Of course, Safaricom, they're one of the biggest backers, one of the biggest sponsors of Kenyan sport, and especially from the corporate end in the last few years, a wide array of sports that they support. We're talking football, talking athletics, we're talking rugby, we're talking golf. Safaricom has really supported Kenyan sport, focusing on football as well. Of course, that's what we're here predominantly for. When we talk about the likes of Chapa Dimba, Safaricom has been there to back a sport. So indeed, do continue talking to us. The hashtag, once again, is where is the money? When we talk about internet, the Wi-Fi password is indicated on the walls, either to your left or to your right, to just make it easier for you and facilitate the conversation even more via social media. It is the Tisini Football Finance Summit Game Ni 90s. Mr. Gitau, if you can hear me, how are you this morning? We want to get the conversation started. All right, I don't think he can.
Okay, I'm doing good.
Fantastic, fantastic. So just to set you up properly in the next few seconds, we can see you well. We can also hear you quite well. And we will be able to get this conversation on shortly. Waiting on a heads up from tech. We're good to go? Fantastic stuff. Well, Mr. Gitau, once again, I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for your time. Right ahead of you and right before you is a room full of passionate people when we talk about Kenyan football, people who would like to see the game progress. It's definitely been a hard year when we talk about effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the industry and generally on the world. What are your thoughts so far on how the sports industry is looking in Kenya, specifically to do with football?
Okay, I think especially when you look at the whole of the global, when it comes to football, we had a very negative impact to sports industries, especially in football. When you look at even, for example, our own sponsorship, Chapadimba, it's been halted because of COVID. But I think it's cut across not only football, even on other sports, especially in developed countries. And if you look even on other aspects in other worlds, still they're being hit in terms of revenues, in terms of sponsorship and all those things. So I think COVID has greatly impacted our sport industries, and more so to developed country like in Kenya, you felt a very huge impact on that, yeah.
Where do you think Safaricom can come in, Mr. Gitau, in all this to sort of cushion, if you will, the football industry?
I think looking at Safaricom in terms of sponsorship and our sport industry in Kenya, we've come very far, as in, like if you check in all the engagement we have, sponsorship, such an event, and even Chapadimba, we are in the athletics. So I think Safaricom play a huge role, and I think even past COVID, that's why you're able to sponsor such events. We're still promoting and sponsoring other events still. So I think be COVID or not, we're still there for Kenyan industries, and we have a role to play.
A lot of people, I'm sure, would be curious about Chapa Dimba. There have been the effects of the pandemic on a lot of sports tournaments, not just Kenya, but globally. Any chance of Chapa Dimba coming back sooner rather than later?
Yeah. We're hoping the way things are going with the vaccine coming in, and hopefully everything sports will go back to normal. I think our sponsorship will still come back. As in, we still have plans. As you see, we haven't finished the regional finals, so we are not losing it. We are not letting it go. We have to finish and also take the guys to Spain. The All-Stars players who will be selected to go to Spain and the coaches. So we're still going on.
What exactly do you look for in terms of, trying to scout out what sport can we be able to back? What club can we be able to sponsor? What are some of these things for the people involved here to just be able to know a bit more on?
Over the years, we've become one of the biggest corporate supporters of sport in Kenya. We have invested close to a total of 1 billion Kenyan shillings in sport, ranging from football, athletics, and rugby, and golf, and charity runs all over all over our counties, yeah. And through such events, through events such as Safaricom Athletics, Safaricom Marathon in Lewa, Chapadimba and Safaricom, we have seen transformative impact of sport in Kenya. our deep involvement has helped us recognize the role that sports play in this country, and we remain committed to supporting our future stars, right from the grassroots level to the international stage. Chapadimba na Safaricom is a national football tournament that for both male and female, so we don't only focus on men, so we also have that, we also sponsor female, and we target for guys between the age of 16 and 20 years. And the aim of the tournament is to transform the lives of the young people by giving them a platform to showcase their talent and an opportunity to from their passion. And the winning team, that is for both girls and boys, each goes on and Kenyan Shield, the league and KF select 13 and 16 boys form an all-star team that tackles all the region that you have of football. In La Liga. And the team attended the training camp in where they play friendly matches against La Liga Unified, and over 1,500 teams signed up season 3, though like 3,000 players engaged. Just close to 3,000 fans at the various regional finals, and over 500 players taken skills empowerment sessions. So we're not looking at how it's on the football, but you want to have a form being that not only focusing on football, but also give them life skills on how to invest and such as to not to all something. In addition, 16 players from season 2 were scouted for national team honors, and it's evident even now when you look at the CAF, the 20, we have many players who are scouted through Timba and the Safaricom event. 5 players received scholarship abroad, 10 received call-up to like you see, you look at the Taskal of the Madina discovered through Timba. So I also like to give another story for posting a world story. She was from Coast, and he was the only coach in the season of Safaricom. During season 2, Hanel based at a pro football academy came very close to becoming national champion. Managed to go all the way to find losing post-match penalty winner like Queens from the Pauline has been a coach for over 6 years, was one of the 2 coaches selected to go in season 2 of that team for a 10-day training. For her trip to Spain, chance to learn from some of the best coaches in the world was Dream Country. The mother of Dream aims to one day take her skills to the international stage and be big coach our Harambe Starlets. This year, Timba na Safaricom tournament coaching clinic, which were partnership with La Liga, is part of effort to local football coaches, and over 1,000 grassroots coaches were trained on La Liga football methodology. Its future ends at February 20th. That is museum. So you can see we are still trying to not only to upskill our players, also targeting our coach, because if you don't mentor a coach nicely or train them, then we expect the output not to be at par with the standard that we want to see in our Kenyan football.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Mr. Francis Gitau, Research Manager of Events as well at Safaricom PLC. I don't know if, Francis, you'll have time for just 2 questions. All right, Mr. Dan Shikanda there from AFC Leopards. Mr. Shikanda, to you.
You've actually invested a lot in football in this country, but as you know, the face of football in any country is the top-tier league. Why haven't you even tried to invest a bit, maybe in the title prize for our league in this country? We've been struggling to have the topmost league in this region, but the sad note of our league is that you can win the league and have nothing to show at the end of winning the league. Why don't you as Safaricom come in and maybe sponsor even something in the top tier league? Thank you.
I think we've been having a conversation with FKF, not only in matters regarding Chapadimba. I think it's something on the table, but I won't say the way forward as of now, because there are other teams that deals with such negotiation and all those things. But in essence, you will see like what we came to understand and why we went to Chapadiba from grassroots, because we realized most of the talent of our youth are being wasted because they don't have a platform to show those talents. So if these are wasted at the grassroots level, then when it comes to the National League, then you don't expect to have those stars shining there. So I think it's indirectly we're still sponsoring it, because without Tapadiba, for example, if you look at the national team, that is Sekafa, now we have over like 7 people who are scouted through Chapadimba. So it's like a sort of indirect sponsorship to enable even the teams in the league to have quality players. They can come to Chapadimba tournament. That's one of the ways. The other thing is we are coaching even these coaches, grassroots coaches, on those methodology that other leagues in the world, best league in the world, like for methodology, coaching skills and all things. So it's not like we are not sponsoring them. That is the National League, but indirectly we are doing that. But it's, like I said, it's something on the table and there's negotiation going on. So we hope fruits will come forth very soon, but let's wait for the team that's dealing with those negotiations to complete on their mission and see what happens.
Patrick Korir from Nairobi City Stars. Last question, please, to Mr. Gitao. Thank you.
Francis, hi.
Hi, Korea.
Very well. Good to see you. Mine is just
Good to see you too.
Yeah, mine is just to commend Safaricom. I am part of the Chapadimba team. So you can look at it in many ways. As he has rightfully said, there's a way that they are contributing to the game. It's indirect. You may not see the sponsorship up here, but down there they're doing a lot. For example, City Stars, we signed 4 lads from the last edition of Chapadimba, and they're really quality players. I know across the Premier League teams, I know Obin here has the MVP from the first edition, David Majak. I know Terry over there. There's a time they signed a winger from Lugari Blue Saints, Dan Lusamuka, and so many other Chapadimba players are spread across the Premier League teams. So I just like to commend Francis and Safaricom and what they're doing, because it makes it a lot easier.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that. Patrick Korir from Nairobi City Stars. Francis, I think we'll let you go at this point. Lots of questions, I'm sure, but let us let you go. Thanks a lot for your time, Mr. Francis Gitao there. A round of applause for him, please, as he bids us goodbye. Well, we will be getting into another virtual session. I see the tech team is already on it with the top man in regional football. We are talking about Mr. Auka Gesheo there, who is the Secretary General of SECAFA. We will be getting into that shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of us watching from the comfort of your home, your living room, your office, you are welcome to the Tisini Football Finance Summit, powered by Safaricom here at the Radisson Park in Westlands.